Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Danis Erham from HG3. Today I'm going to talk about SDG 7. It's talking about the ICT in education. So the goals for this number 7 is to wide use of ICT in education from a formal and curriculum-based school and distance education to more development-oriented non-formal education. These ICT-based systems are cost-effective systems in the long term later. There are two goals. The first one is open school system and initiative. The open school system are provide the formal education through the distance learning methods for people who are disadvantaged for either financial or social reasons. The initiative opens e-learning and ICT opportunities, providing the learning materials for teachers and instructional managers in a way that this is attractive, innovative, and meaningful locally. So in order to provide this education for all and reduce the lack of quality due to the limited resources, many developing countries have established open system, like an open school system. This system provides formal education through the distance learning for school dropouts and people who are disadvantaged or maybe poor for either financial reasons or social reasons that are unable to access this education. So these are the targets. The first target is free primary and secondary education. The next target is equal access to quality in primary education. The next one is equal access to affordable, technical, vocational, and higher education. The next target is about increasing the number of people with a relevant skill for financial success. The next one is eliminate all the discrimination education. And the next target is universal literacy and numeracy. For the next target, education for sustainable development and a global citizenships. The next target is build and upgrade an inclusive and a safe school. And the next target is about expand the higher education scholarship for developing countries. The next target is increasing the supply of qualified teachers in the developing countries. And then this is the program for information communication technology in Indonesia. So our Ministry of Education and Culture will provide the information communication technology equipment in the form of computer to support the digitalizations of a learning, or we call PJJ. Another program from the Ministry of Education and Culture are about Ministry of Education and Culture provide the assistance to schools in the form of a relaxation school, and or it's called Dana BOS in Indonesia. And then there is operational assistance for the implementation for early childhood education, or we call it BOP PAUD. And then there is operational assistance for the implementation equality education, or we call it BOP equality. And the affirmative school operational assistant or affirmative boss. And then not only for public schools but also for these private schools. And then ICT programs achieving the SDG 7 distance learning project. The impact of ICTs on open and distance learning in developing country, and a level of confidence, of course, especially in distance education. Generally, the development of distance learning process are divided into 4 steps or generations. The first generation is about formal school on the air, or we call it FSA or SOA. This first broadcasted using the radio in 1952, serving more or less 150 students spread on other province, with the program name as Tips on Farming and Community Development. Next, the second generation. Many of the conventional university in Philippines has already offered a degree program using a distance education learning method with a face-to-face tutorial will also operate several times. The third generations developers of this program starting to concern some factors. The first one is needs of flexible education. The second one is upgrading the media. The third one is increasing demand from a number of professional groups for flexible education. The fourth generation is ICT helps them in upgrading skills and their knowledge. The function of the university as a physical institution for distance education has begun change. The strengths and the weakness program. The first generation strength, the FSA format provides a distinct teaching segment for Filipino society. The weakness is using radio media. For the second generations, the strength is a distance education method where learning relies in printed teaching materials as well as a face-to-face tutorial that can be done occasionally. The weakness also using radio media. The third generations, distance education Philippines comes in audio or video format. The weakness is many Filipino students cannot easily reach the main campus. The fourth generation using e-learning, a number of specialists are using app but still require further training. For the conclusion, this all targets above, Indonesia has done a lot of programs ensuring that education based on ICT is being implemented, ranging from the operationally to equally for all gender. Thank you guys.
Good morning, good afternoon, good night. We're from Home Group 3 and we're going to discuss and present about the ICT in education based on the SDGs. Based on the table of the contents, we divide into 6 parts of the contents. The first one is problem, second one is the target, the third one is program in Indonesia, the fourth one is usage in ICT, the fifth one is advantage and disadvantage of the program, and the sixth one is the conclusion. The next one we're going to talk about the SDG number 8, which is the ICT in rural areas. And for the goals for number 8, with the aim of providing better guidelines for developing country members to use the ICT in education, and the capacity building for teachers and administrators, procurement of equipment, and following up training. And the goals are divided into 3 parts, which is the first one is tech, and rural areas were provided with a technological kit, with way modern before back then. And the second one is teachers, training in the use of equipment and teaching materials based on the technological development into the teaching area. And the introduction, integrating the ICT in classroom learning. And we have this the target, which is the target number 4B, and the target number 4C, which is to mention about the expand higher education scholarship for developing countries, which are actually the bursaries should be offered by developed countries to students from developed countries to build development country capacity, with the acknowledging the importance of bursaries. Donor countries are encouraged to increase other forms of educational support, which target 4C are mentioned about the teachers are like the key, as actually it is the key for all the SDGs for objectives, and it calls for the immediate attention as the lack of uneven distribution of professional teachers in the particular in disadvantaged areas exacerbates the lack of equity in education, so that based on the target number 4C, the rural areas have to develop and increase the supply of qualified teachers in developing countries. And for the several development initiative ICT for remote area and disadvantaged in Indonesia. And the part A is information and technological shop, as we can say here, as we know as Warintek. And point B is community access point or CAP. Point number C is district internet service center card or MPLIK. And the point number A is mentioning about the information and technological shop, Warintek. And Warintek is a service information and science which is developed by the Ministry of Research and Technology since the early of 2000s until 2004. And there were a number of edible stores or stalls spread across the provinces in Indonesia. And Warintek provides a variety of complete learning resources, including the appropriate science and technological issues. And the point number B mentioning about the community access point or CAP, and it is a center or a point where the community that resides in the countryside can do communication as well as accessing information through existing telecommunication, and the information itself due to the facilities in one place. And the distinctive characteristic of CAP is actually a physical space that has access to information and communication technological facilities around the area. And the point number C is mentioning about the District Internet Service Center or PLIK. And PLIK is designed more resembling an internet cafe, which everyone can use it, and provides subsidized internet access service and throughout Indonesia, both in cities or in remote villages, PLIK equipped with VSAT or Very Small Portrait Terminal, Notebook 6, one server, switches, UPS, chairs, tables, and VSAT in every part of the PLIK. And the satellites allow all places to get internet access without the exception. And the target number 4 is ICT's program on achieving SDG number 8 in educational initiative in rural schools in Mongolia. And an entitled project is the innovation on information and communication technology in education and its potential of reducing the poverty in Asia Pacific. The initiator program targets of the program, short, brief, and its objective. The aim is to provide better guidance for members of developing countries in order to use the ICT in educational system. For about 45 schools in rural areas of Mongolia were given the equipment package consists of one laptop, one LCD projector, one digital camera. Teachers are given training in the use of equipment on developing a learning method of teaching. And this educational innovation or ICT project is supported by the ADB or Asian Development Bank. And the various activities have been carried out as the part of the project, including capacity building for teachers and educators. Also the administrators, equipment procurements, and other following up training. And the point number 5 is mentioning about the strength and the weakness of the program. The innovation on information and communication technology in educational, it is potential for reducing poverty in Asia Pacific. And as we can see here, we have the strength and weakness itself. And the strength is provide better guidance for developing countries and given equipment package. And thus for the weakness, we have the teacher need to be trained first before using technology, so that have to double the knowledge for the teacher itself, to know about the topics and to know more about technological that the teacher are going to use. And for the conclusion for the IDG number 8, the biggest problem with the implementation of ICT in rural area is the teacher need to be trained a lot, since the inequality of usage of digital technology, and provide them, the teachers, with an adequate amount of training will close this case and equality for all the students across the country.
So hey guys, my name is Christianus Wijaya. Today I'm going to talk about the SDG number 9, the ICT in higher education. So the goals for number 9 is pretty simple. It is the use of technological device to help the learning community between the teachers and the students, and how it can be implemented in the real educational life. So the goals is that to use a satellite technology to deliver and integrate distance learning as well as educational and administrative service in its 12 member countries, and to communicate by email with lecturers or tutors or other students, access the internet, watch live multicast videos, access multimedia via download servers, and etc. So for the target, we believe that target 4.3 and 4C, which is the 40, is equal access to affordable technical, vocational, and higher education, and 4C is increase the supply of qualified teachers in developing countries. So from secondary and tertiary education, including university, and providing youth and adults with lifetime learning opportunities. In accordance with the current international agreements, the provision of tertiary education should be increasingly free. And for the target 4C, teachers are the key to all SDG 4 objectives. It calls for immediate attention as the lack and uneven distribution of professional teachers, in particular in disadvantaged areas. And it can poor teacher mean the bad situation will be exacerbated and the lack of equity in education. So this is Indonesia education based on communication system using audio satellite like in University South Pacific. But unfortunately, as we all know, our country, Indonesia, has not provided a special satellite for the education system. And what if Indonesia had satellite like in University of South Pacific? The government can reduce the cost of subsidizing internet quota so that it is more efficient with the satellite itself. And meanwhile, students, teachers, and lecturers can also enjoy better and free internet access. So for number 4, ICT's program on achieving SDG 9 University of South Pacific and USPNet. Initiative program, targets of the program, short brief, and its objectives. So by running a system to provide education based on communication system of two-way audio using satellite, this system grew into an ICT-based network modern called USPNet. A communication satellite network connecting 12 USP member countries and USPNet Earth stations are designed with different capabilities to meet the requirements of the universities in an efficient manner. And the hub center is located in Lokala campus in Suva. So what are the strength and weakness program? ICT's program on achieving SDG 9 University of South Pacific and USPNet's strength are using network modern technology, the first one, and the second one is support countries' sustainable and inclusive development ambition. But the weakness are teachers need to train first before using technology, and it really depends on the satellite condition. So when the satellite is bad, then the internet connection will be bad also, and the learning path between the teachers and the students will not be that great. And the conclusion is that the use of internet for higher education level is undeniably important, as we all know about that, but not only for lecturers but also for students. Unfortunately, the usage of internet ICT in Indonesia is far from perfect, since the comparison between price and speed for internet is still inversely proportional. So imagine if you're living in a rural area where internet is not so good, but the price is still the same with people who live in the big cities, and there's some bad comparison between price and speed for internet itself. So yeah, I think that's all from us from HG3. If you guys have any comments or questions, just hit us on Mas Forum. So thank you.